Okay, so here's my 2 cents on putting the turbo in. Taking it out even. You gotta lay across the front here. So I'm literally putting nice towels here, and you're laying, and with 2 hands you're pulling it out of the small side first, and then kind of rotate it this way and it comes out that way, it goes in. Once I was doing this is the 3rd time. This broke here, so every time I went to push this to get it off, it would just bounce. It took me all day to get one off. That was really frustrating. So after that, I decided I was going to buy a new one every time. This is the old one. This one's probably good, but I bought a new one anyways, just because it's such a nightmare. One thing I didn't like was the T-bolt was bent, and the threads looked a little marginal. So anyways, I bought a new one from Riff Raff, and there's nothing wrong with the part, but it showed up with a shorter T-bolt, which made everything a nightmare, because you're in the back, way in the back. I mean, literally way in the back, trying to put that thing on. Now, before you put the turbo in, you're setting that on the up exhaust. You're setting it in the back of it so that it's already in place. You're not trying to put it on after you put the turbo in place. The same thing with the other side. So it's setting back there, but because the T-bolt is shorter, you can't have the nut on it easily. I honestly wasn't that committed to it because it just seemed too short, so I didn't try, because I didn't think it was worth it, because if you can't spring it over the flanges when the turbo's on, you're totally screwed. So I needed to know that I was gonna be able to spring it over the flange. So anyways, long story short is it was too short, so I had to leave the nut off to have it set in place. Then when I went to slide it up, I needed to have an extra hand to compress it in order to have enough threads show. And trying to do that one hand is, of course, impossible. So I ended up having to stuff something behind the flange and the firewall here to keep it from spinning over while I compressed it, so I could get the threads exposed so that I could put a nut on it with one hand. So, it was wanting to do this. So what a nightmare, and when all you really need is just a really long one of these. That way when it's expanded, you're still on the threads, and when you're on the flange, you still have thread showing. So a short one should be a first indication that your life is going to be a lot more difficult. This is what you want, is a long T-bolt here. This can come out. You could probably swap it with another one, maybe if you have a really long one on your turbo tubes or something. I suppose you could swap it. Speaking of swapping, I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on this, but I'm almost certain that these bolts that hold the alternator on, there's 3 of them, are exactly the same bolts that hold the turbo on. So if your heads are not good, don't put the not good heads back on there. Put them here on the alternators. Swap them out. And that way you don't have to buy new bolts. I think it's maybe recommended, but I don't know. If these are grade 8, I don't know if they're 8. But anyways, that's a thought. Any other thoughts? I think that's all. So anyways, that's my 2 cents on putting the turbo back in place, having done it 3 times now.